go great. I'm not going to have any technical issues. Okay, partial fraction decomposition. Here's an example, okay? The left-hand side right here is the problem. That's what it's going to look like when you're given the problem, okay? The right-hand side is your answer, okay? So basically what you're doing, you guys, is you're taking a fraction like this, and you're splitting it into two fractions. So the right is the same as the left, it's just that the right has two fractions. You could take the time to add the two fractions that are on the right and make sure you end up with what's on the left. So I'm going to do that one time, but I have a better way for you to check your answer that's easier. But you could check it. So let's go ahead and just take a second and let's check this, okay? So if I were adding those two things together, I would get a common denominator, which is x minus 3 times x plus 2, okay? Well, the first fraction has the x minus 3, but it's missing the x plus 2. So I distribute, and I get 2x plus 4. The second fraction has the x plus 2, it's missing the x minus 3. Distribute, and I get negative x plus 3. So on the top, I have x plus 7. On the bottom, if I multiply those together, guys, I get x to the second. Then I have a plus 2x and a minus 3x. That gives me a minus x minus 6. And what I get is exactly what's on the other side. So I just checked and it worked out, okay? All right. Here are the steps, okay, and I'll kind of discuss the steps as we go through, but the first step is to factor the denominator, okay? So let's go ahead with question number 1. So you have 1. Now, if you look at the denominator, both of those terms have an x, so I can take out an x. If I take out an x, I'm left with 2x plus 1, okay? So that's the first step. The second step is to write it as two separate fractions. This x right here being one denominator, the 2x plus 1 being the other denominator, okay? You guys, that's what your answer is going to look like. I'm good right now. Thanks, Scott. I appreciate it. Okay, so that's what it's going to look like on that side, okay? That's my answer. Now I just have to figure out what goes on top. So I want you to put an A there and a B there, okay? So you've got to fill that in with something, okay? Then we're down to step number 4 is where we're at. So what you're going to do is you're going to multiply each of those 3 terms by what the common denominator would be if I were getting one. What the common denominator would be will always be that denominator right there. So I want you to take that we started with, or the factored version at least, and I want you to multiply all 3 of these terms by what exactly is what there, which is x times 2x plus 1. So I'm multiplying all 3 of those terms by x times 2x plus 1. So look at the first one, you guys. This x cancels with that x. That 2x plus 1 cancels with that 2x plus 1, and all I have left is a 1. Okay? Then look at the second term. This x and this x cancel. So you have an a multiplied by 2x plus 1. I'm going to distribute that, and I get 2ax plus a. Okay? The third term, this 2x plus 1 cancels with that 2x plus 1, and what I have left is bx. Okay? All right, now you look at that, and here's what you do. You take anything that doesn't have an x in it at all. Like, do you see here how there's no x, and do you see here how there's no x? We're going to write an equation that has just the things that have no x in them. So then that would give me 1 equals a. Now I'm going to write all the terms that do have an x in them, okay? So on the right-hand side, I have a 2ax. I also have a bx. On the left-hand side, there's nothing that has an x in it. So I would say that's 0x, okay? Now, I'm going to explain something to you. You don't have to write any of this down. I feel like I need to offer you an explanation. Once I offer you the explanation, then doing it is going to be easy, but I have to tell you why we're doing it, okay? So just listen and just watch, and this is, you know, just a little explanation. So I just wrote down the second equation, okay? If I factored out an x out of the left-hand side, I would have 2a plus b equals 0x. Then if I wanted to divide by x like that, then those x's would cancel, and those x's would cancel. So I would have 2a plus b equals 0, okay? So what that means is this. You're going to go to this equation right here, and you're going to write it down, but you don't have to write the x's anymore. So you would just have 2a plus b equals 0. Now write that down. So you just drop the x's, because using this process that I showed you, you could actually eliminate the x's, okay? Well guys, I know that a is 1, so I'm just going to put a 1 right there. And now I'm going to use this equation right here. I'm going to put a 1 in for a and find my b. So if a is 1, 2 times 1 is 2, plus b equals 0. Bring my 2 over, I get b equals -2, and that's my answer. I'm literally done with the problem, okay? Who says I followed you? Let me see. You should raise your hand for me, okay? Okay, now I want everybody to listen to this, okay? Just relax and listen for a second. If I did that correctly, then this answer that I have a box around is exactly the same as this answer. So remember when I started the lesson, I took the two fractions and I added them together and I made sure I ended up with what I started with? I have a different way of checking, okay? The restrictions on this problem is x can't be 0 and x can't be 1/2, because then you'd have a 0 on the bottom, okay? So we're going to choose another value of x. It doesn't matter what you choose, you just can't choose 0 and you can't choose -1/2. Let's all choose the same. Let's all choose 1, okay? So everybody go 1, store, enter, okay? Now what I want you to do is to put the original problem in, but I want you to add parentheses around the denominator, okay? So everybody go 1 divided by parenthesis, 2 membar, enter, x squared, plus membar, enter, close it, enter, and I get 0.3 repeating. So if x is 1, I could have chosen anything except 0 and -1/2. I chose 1. If x is 1, then this is 0.3 repeating. So if I did it right, then this better also be 0.3 repeating, right? So I'm going to add parentheses right here, and I'm going to put that in, and I'm going to make sure I get 0.3. So I'm going to go 1 divided by membar, enter, plus a -2 just means -2. So I'm going to go -2 divided by parenthesis, 2 membar, enter, plus 1, close it, enter, and I got 0.3. So I just checked my answer, okay? I think on the quiz I would check my answer, and I think on the final I would check my answer. Maybe I would check it a couple of times on my homework to make sure I know what I was doing, but beyond that it's kind of a long process. But it is pretty important that you know what you're doing, okay, and that you know that it's right, okay? Okay, here we go, nice and slowly with question number 2. So the first thing you do is you write it down, and then you factor the denominator. So it goes to an x and an x, okay? Signs are the same, they're both positive. 3 and 1 multiply to give me 3 and add to give me 4. So that's what it factors to, okay? Over here, you have to have a fraction that has an x plus 1 as a denominator, and you have to have a fraction that has x plus 3 as a denominator, okay? Now I'm going to come over here to the side, you guys, and I'm going to find the place where I'm going to write my answer, and I'm just going to get myself all set up to write that answer just like that, okay? Up above here I have an A, and up above here I have a B. This question came up several times last period. If I wrote x plus 3 first and x plus 1 second, and put the A above the x plus 3 and the B above the x plus 1, it would end up the same, because the values of A and B in the other scenario would swap from what mine are going to be, so the answer would end up being the same, okay? So long story short, it doesn't matter, okay? Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply all 3 of those terms by x plus 1 times x plus 3. Some people do not take the time to write x plus 1 times x plus 3 times, and it makes them miss the problem. Okay, and you know that there's not going to be a lot of partial credit on this final, so you've got to be careful. Okay, look guys, x plus 1, x plus 1, x plus 3, x plus 3. What I have left is x minus 2. On the right hand side, x plus 1, x plus 1. Distribute my a, and I get ax plus 3a. Last term, x plus 3 cancels with x plus 3. Distribute the b, and I have bx plus b. Okay, who says I'm 100% with you? Let me give you some feedback. Okay, let's write down everything that doesn't have an x. So I would have negative 2 equals 3a plus b. Now I'm going to write down everything that has an x, but I'm not going to write the x's. So this is 1x, so that would be 1. On the right you have ax, so that would be an a, plus bx, so that would be a b. Now I have to find a and b, so all I'm going to do is just use elimination. So if I multiply the top equation by a negative, then I'll have a negative b and a positive b, and those will eliminate. So when I distribute, I get 2 equals negative 3a minus b. The b's cancel. I have 3 equals negative 2a. Divide by negative 2, and I get a equals negative 3/2. Okay, now that's not necessarily fun, but I can certainly deal with it. So I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to write it as negative 3/2. Now I have to find the b. You can go wherever you want to find the b, you guys. The easiest place to find the b is right there. That's my opinion. You can go into any of those three. Okay, so I'm going to go a, that's negative 3/2, plus b equals 1. Okay, pull your 3/2 over, so you have b equals 1 plus 3/2. You guys, 1 is the same as 2/2, and 2/2 plus 3/2 gives me 5/2. So that's my answer. Put it over here, and there's my answer. Okay, who says I understand? Raise your hand. Okay, great. We're going to check it. I'm going to check this one more time. After that, you knowing how to check is your responsibility. Okay. Restrictions on x are -1 and -3. I already have a 1 stored in as x, so I'm going to go with the 1. Okay, it doesn't matter what you use. When you check this in the original, you need parentheses around the top and parentheses around the bottom. So I'm going to go parenthesis, membar enter -2, close it, divided by parenthesis, membar enter x squared, plus 4, membar enter, plus 3, close it, enter, and I get negative 0.125. Negative 0.125 has nothing to do with the answer. It's what the original equation, original expression is equal to when x is a 1. Now try this one. Look what you have to do. Parentheses everywhere if you're putting this in correctly. Okay? So you have to go parenthesis, -3 divide 2, close it, divided by parenthesis, membar enter plus 1, close it, plus parenthesis, 5 divided by 2, close it, divided by parenthesis, membar enter plus 3, close it, enter. I got the same thing. I know my answer's right. Okay? Who says I'm good? I feel good about this. Let me see how we're feeling. Okay, good. Let's do question 3. A little bit different. Okay? So you have x plus 3 over x minus 2 squared. Okay, now I need you to listen. If you have something that's squared, you have to have one fraction with it being raised to the first power, and then a second fraction with it being raised to the second power. Why? Because if you don't do it, it won't work. Okay? So up above here, I want you to put an A. Up above here, I want you to put a B. Then I'm going to come off to the side, and I'm going to set my answer up. So then all I have to do is find my A, find my B, and I'm good. Okay? The original denominator, once it's factored, is x minus 2 squared. So I'm going to multiply all of these things by x minus 2 squared. Please, please, please take the time to write that down. It will take you 10 seconds to write it down. Okay? This x minus 2 squared cancels with this x minus 2 squared, and what you have left is x plus 3. On the second one, this x minus 2 squared cancels with one of those x minus 2 squareds. So I did have 2, one of them went away, so I still have 1. Distribute the a, and I have ax minus 2a. For the final one, this x minus 2 squared cancels with that x minus 2 squared, and what I have left is a plus b. Write down everything that does not have an x. So that would be 3 equals negative 2a plus b. Write down everything that does have an x, but don't write the x's down. So 1 times x, that would just be 1, equals a times x, that would just be an a. So that worked out great, because I already know that a is 1, so I'm going to put a 1 right there. Then I'm going to go into that equation, and I'm going to put a 1 in for a. So negative 2 times a, that's negative 2 times 1 is a negative 2, plus b equals 3. Move your 3 over, you get b equals 5, put it right there, and I'm done. Okay? Okay, it's going to get a little tougher. Yes, honey? It just won't work if you don't. That's the best I got for you. Sorry, honey. That's all I got. I don't know how to say it. Yeah.
Sorry, so just before you got ready with A, can you go over that part one more time?
So if I go, what doesn't have an x? This doesn't have an x, this doesn't have an x, and this doesn't have an x. So I have 3 equals negative 2a plus b. You with me? Now I have an equation with everything that does have an x. So that'd be 1x equals ax, but I don't write the x's anymore, so that just gives me 1 equals a. You okay? Okay, question 4 is tougher. Okay? All right, write it down. And it's all factored. The denominator is already factored. Okay? Now watch this one closely. See how this guy's squared? You have to have a first, and you have to have a second, because if you don't, it won't work. You have to have an x plus 1. So I've got 3 of them. Okay? Above this is an a, above this is a b, above that is a c. Okay? I always take the time to come over here and write down my answer. Okay, so I'm ready to go with that. Okay, I'm going to multiply everything by x squared times x plus 1, because that's what the factored denominator is of the original expression. Okay, so it looks like that. Yes, honey? Everybody stop for just a sec. Don't go ahead of me, okay, because this one's going to be tougher. Yes. Remember, if something's squared, you have to have one fraction where it's to the first and one fraction where it's to the second. If that were a fourth, you would have to have an x to the first, an x to the second, and an x to the third, and an x to the fourth. You have to have one of everyone leading up to that exponent. Okay? If you look right here, look, honey, you had x minus 2 squared. So I had x minus 2 to the first, then I had x minus 2 to the second. Over here, everybody freeze right here, look. X plus 1, x plus 3, nothing squared. So I just go plus 1 plus 3. Right here, nothing squared. So I just have an x and a 2x plus 1. Okay? All right, so back over here. Now let's cancel. So this x squared cancels with this x squared. This x plus 1 cancels with this x plus 1. So I have 9x to the second plus x minus 2 equals. Okay? Look at the next one. This x to the first cancels with one of the x's on the top. So what I have right there is I have an a and an x plus 1. The x was squared, now it's to the first. When I distribute that, I get ax to the second plus ax. Look at the next one. This x squared cancels with this x squared, distribute, and you get bx plus b. The third one, this x plus 1 cancels with that x plus 1, and you have a plus c x squared. Okay, who's with me? Let me see. Feel a little bit of confusion. Okay, most of us are good. Okay, look. Anything that doesn't have an x, like this and this. Okay, that's all I've got. So I've got -2 equals b. Okay, total score, because I know the middle number is a -2. Okay, now I'm going to go to the x's. Okay, so this guy has an x to the first. I'm only looking at first. This guy has an x to the first. This guy has an x to the first. I'm going to write it down without the x's. This is 1x. So that is x equals no x. Sorry. So that would give me 1 equals a plus b. Now I've got squareds. I didn't have squareds before. You just do the same thing. So 9x squared is a 9. Ax squared, I write it down as an a. Cx squared, I write it down as a c. So there are my three equations. Okay. You guys, I know b is a -2. So I'm just going to put in a -2 right there. So I have a plus b, that would be -2 equals 1. The 2 comes over positive, and I get a equals 3. Now I have to find the c, so put a 3 there for a. So I have 3 plus c equals 9, pull my c over, c equals 6, there's my answer, and I'm done. Okay? Okay, give me feedback. Show me who's okay. I gotta go so slow on this. Raise it really high so I can see how we're doing. Okay, most of us are good. Okay, question 5. Yes, honey? This ax squared, right here. Okay, because I had this, look, I had a over x multiplied by x to the second times x plus 1. You with me there? So this is 1x, and this is 2x's. So this guy is going to come up here, and now instead of 2x's, I only have 1x there. You understand that? Then I distribute ax times x is ax squared, ax times 1 is ax. You good? Okay, you're welcome. Okay, let's look at question 5. Okay, question 5 is a review problem, but you have to know how to do question 5 to do question 6. So you're going to want to watch this closely. Okay, you have 3 equations and you have 3 variables. The goal on this problem is to figure out what a is, and b is, and c is. Okay, now everybody just kind of sit back and relax for a second and look. If you look at the a's, look at the numbers in front. Those are called coefficients. I'm not going to worry about the signs. I'm just going to look at the numbers. 2, 1, 3. Look at the b's. 1, 1, 1. Look at the c's. 2, 1, 2. I'm trying to figure out which variable is going to be the easiest to eliminate. They're all going to be easy because they all have at least one coefficient that's a 1. One of them is super easy. Which one's the easiest to eliminate? The b's, right? So if I call this equation 1, this equation 2, and this equation 3. If I took equations 1 and 2 and I added those together, my b's would eliminate, right? So I'd have 2a minus 1a is a. A negative b and a positive b goes away. 2c plus 1c is 3c equals 18. Now what I have to do is I have to eliminate the b's again, but I can't use equations 1 and 2. I've either got to use 1 and 3 or I've got to use 2 and 3. Which ones are going to be really easy to get rid of the b's? 2 and 3. So over here I'm going to go 2 and 3 because if I add 2 and 3 together, the b's go away. So then I'd have 2a, the b's go away, plus 3c equals 21. Who says, I'm with you? Let me see how we're doing. Okay, great. Now everybody look here. I've got an equation here that has no b. I've got an equation here that has no b. So I've got A's and C's, A's and C's. Now I've got to pull those two equations together and get rid of another variable. So look at the A's, 2 and 1. Look at the C's, 3 and 3. They're both going to be easy. The C's are really easy because all I have to do is change the sign. So if I distribute a negative, then I have a negative A, a negative 3C, and a negative 18. So my C's go away, and now I have A equals 3. So I know my A is a 3. Now to find C, you go back to the step up above. So you either go here or you go here. It doesn't matter where you go, you're going to get the same answer either way, and put a 3 in for A. I'm going to go here. I always just choose the one that looks the easiest. So I would have 3 plus 3C equals 18. The 3 comes over, so 3C equals 15, divide by 3, and I get C equals 5. To figure out what B is, I have to go to the very original. I'm going to choose the easiest. They're all going to give me the same answer. I'm going to choose 2. So negative A means negative 3 plus B plus C, which is 5, is equal to 3. So that gives me B plus 2 equals 3. Move my 2 over, B equals 1, and I've just solved that problem. Okay? Who says I understand? Let me see. The reason I had to review that is because now we have to use that method of solving, bless you, with a partial fraction decomposition. Okay? Here we go. Nice and slowly. Okay? Write down the original problem. Okay, I want everybody to listen. Everybody freeze right here. I feel like there was more than one person that was confused about this. Look, if that's squared, then I have to write one with them, one fraction that has just one of them, and one fraction that has two of them. If that was cubed, I'd have to have an x minus 1 to the first, an x minus 1 to the second, and an x minus 1 to the third. Start with the 1, I have to go all the way up to my number. Okay, so I have an x plus 2 on the bottom. He's just to the first, so that's all I need. The x minus 1 is squared, so I need one fraction that has an x minus 1 to the first, and a second fraction that has x minus 1 to the second. That's my setup. If you set this thing up wrong, I'm not trying to scare you, I'm just telling you, if you set this up wrong on the final, I am sure that they will give you 0 points for this problem. So you have to understand that I just showed you, okay? All right, so let's set up our answer. Okay, this is going to be an A, this is going to be a B, and this is going to be a C. Okay, so multiply everything by x plus 2 times x minus 1 squared. You guys, people start getting lazy, and they think they can do this canceling in their head. So instead of writing out 4 times like what I'm doing, they do it in their head and they mess up, and it is devastating. That took me like 30 seconds to write that. So it's not going to save you much time, and it could be a huge, huge penalty on your points. So don't do it. It's not worth it. Okay? All right. X plus 2, x plus 2, x minus 1 squared, x minus 1 squared. What you have left is 2x to the second minus 3x plus 13. On the right-hand side, the x plus 2's cancel. Okay? So what you have left is this. Everybody look forward for a second. An A multiplied by x minus 1 squared. Now when I do x minus 1 squared, I have to write it twice and then FOIL it. So I'm going to write down that A, and I'm going to forget about him for a second. Then I'm going to do x minus 1 squared in my head. When I do that, I get x to the second minus 2x plus 1. That's what I've got. Next fraction. This x minus 1 cancels with one of those two x minus 1's. So now I'm going to go plus b, then I'm going to FOIL x plus 2 times x minus 1. When I do that, I get x to the second plus x minus 2. The last one, this x minus 1 squared cancels with that x minus 1 squared. I distribute the c, and I get cx plus 2c. Okay? Raise your hand high in the air if you are following me. Raise your hand up high. You guys are so great. And my pen is still working. Okay, so we have 2x to the second minus 3x plus 13 equals ax to the second minus 2ax plus a plus bx to the second plus bx minus 2b plus cx plus 2c. Constants. That means anything that doesn't have an x. No x, no x, no x, no x. So I'm going to write those down. 13 equals a minus 2b plus 2c. Anything that has an x to the first in it, okay? So I am talking about this guy right here, this guy right here, this guy here, and this guy here. Write them down with no x in it. So you have negative 3 equals negative 2a plus b plus c. Now I'm going to write down all those squareds that I didn't highlight, but I'm going to write them down without the x squareds. So I have 2 equals negative, pardon me, that's not right. 2 equals a plus b. Okay? Now, when I solve this 3 by 3 over here, I got rid of the b's over here, and I got rid of the b's over here. Then I took those together and I got rid of something else. Okay? So if you look here, this equation right here already doesn't have a c. So if I would just eliminate the c's using those top two, then I already have an equation that doesn't have a c, and I'd have a second equation that doesn't have a c. So it's like the problem's already been started for me. Okay? So I'm going to take this guy and distribute a negative 2. Bless you. So when I do that, the top equation is 13 equals a minus 2b plus 2c. Distribute the negative 2, and I get 6 equals 4a minus 2b minus 2c. C's go away. And I have 19 equals 5a minus 4b. Now, don't highlight this on your paper. I'm just trying to show you. I'm looking at this, and I'm looking at this. And I'm trying to eliminate either the a's or the b's. It doesn't matter. They're both going to be equally, equal difficulty. If I distribute a 4, my b's are going to go away. So then I have 8 equals 4a plus 4b. Write down that yellow equation. 19 equals 5a minus 4b. My b's go away. I have 27 is equal to 9a. Divide by 9, and I have a equals 3. So I know this is a 3 right there. Now, I can go into the green, or I can go into the yellow. I'm going to put a 3 in for a, and I'm going to find my b. The green is the easiest. I'm always going to choose the easiest. So that would be 3 plus b equals 2. Bring your 3 over, it becomes a negative. B equals negative 1. So I know this is going to be a negative 1. Now to find c, I have to go into some equation that has a c, and I'm going to choose the easiest equation that has a c. I'm choosing this one right here. To me, that's the easiest. You choose what you want, okay? So it would be negative 3 equals, I know that a is 3, so negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. Plus b is minus 1 plus c. So that gives me c minus 7 equals negative 3. Pull your c over, or your 4 over, you get, pull your 7 over, you get c equals 4. Sorry, just kind of freaked out just a little. There we go. C equals 4, put it right there, and I'm done. Okay, yes, honey. You can. You could just, instead of plus or minus, you can put minus. I know I hate plus or minus, but this is the only circumstance where I always do plus or minus, because I think it's easy to just do pluses in the middle. Yeah. I don't know, but you know plus minus is plus, or is minus, so it doesn't matter. Credit either way, okay? Okay, question number 7. This one's different, okay? This one's different. Okay, so let's write it down. See that x to the second plus 5? It's weird. It's squared, and it won't factor. So if it's squared and it won't factor, we have to do this just a little bit differently, okay? So I'm going to write a fraction with the x plus 2. I'm going to write a fraction with the x squared plus 5. Above the x plus 2 is normal. That's just an a. If you have something that's squared, plus or minus something else, that won't factor, the way that you must set it up is bx plus c. If you don't set it up as bx plus c, it won't work. Okay, so I'm going to come down here. I'm going to set myself up to write my answer, and then I'm going to do it the exact same way that I've done all the rest. Okay, so I multiply all 3 of those by the original factored denominator, which is x plus 2 times x squared plus 5. On the left-hand side, x plus 2 cancels with x plus 2, x squared plus 5 cancels with x squared plus 5, and I have 3x to the second minus x plus 13 equals. Right after that, this x plus 2 cancels with that x plus 2. Distribute the a, and you have ax squared plus 5a. On the far right, this x squared plus 5 cancels with this x squared plus 5. Now you have to be careful, guys. Listen, it's not just the c that's multiplied by the x plus 2. It's the entire thing. So I have bx plus c multiplied by x plus 2, so I have to FOIL that. So I go bx times x is bx squared. Bx times 2 is 2bx. C times x is cx, and c times 2 is 2c. So there's my setup. Okay? Anything that doesn't have an x in it, we've got a 13, a 5a, and a 2c. So my first equation is 13 equals 5a plus 2c. Anything that has an x to the first in it, just an x to the first, that would be negative x, 2bx, and cx. Write it down without the x. So that'd be negative 1 equals 2b plus c. Write down the squareds equations without the x squared. So you have 3 equals a, bless you, plus b. Who says I'm following you? Raise your hand. Let me see. Okay, great. Look right here. This guy has no b. This guy has no a. This guy has no c. I've got to figure out which variable is going to be the easiest to eliminate. Look at the a's, 5 and 1. Look at the b's, 2 and 2. Look at the c's, 2 and 1. They're all equally easy because they all have a coefficient of 1, okay? I'm going to do the c's. Let's just say the c's. So I'm going to multiply this by a negative 2. So then I'm going to have 13 equals 5a plus 2c. Distribute the negative 2, and I get 2 equals negative 4b minus 2c. Now the c's go away. I've got an a stacked on top of a b, but I really can't add those together. So I have to write it as 15 equals 5a minus 4b. Well, now look what I've done. I've got this equation that has no c, and I've got this equation that has no c. So now I just have to eliminate the a's or the b's. Which one's easier? They're both pretty easy. I'm going to eliminate the b's, so I'm going to distribute a 4. When I do that, I get 12 equals 4a plus 4b. So the 4b's cancel. You have 27 equals 9a. Divide by 9, and you get a equals 3. So I know my 3 goes right there. Now I go back up into an equation that has an a, and I find another variable. I'm going into this guy right here, because he's so easy. So I have 3 plus b equals 3. Move my 3 over, b equals 0. So that's 0x. It's okay, it's a little weird, but I know I'm going to check it at the end anyway, so I'm not panicking. Now I have to find my c. You can go wherever you want. I'm choosing to go right there. So I have -1 equals. b is a 0. So 2 times b is also a 0 plus c. So I know c is a -1, and there's my answer. Now, that's pretty awkward because 0 times c, you guys know, is just a 0, right? So you just get rid of it, and there's your answer. Okay? Please, please, please check your answers. Who wants to go through the check one more time? Anybody want to? Okay, I'll do it with Danny. Anybody else? Okay.